Hi everyone, my name is Kat, Art-Free Librarian, and welcome to a new video. Today I will be doing my series wrap-up for 2023. So I will go over all the series that I finished, DNFed, caught up on, and I'm still working on in 2023. So I'll start off with some stats. Then I'll go into the series that I finished in 2023, then the series that I DNF'd, then the series I am caught up with, and then the series I'm still in the middle of. All these like stats and things that I'm in the middle of and finished is as of midnight, January 1st, 2024. I'm filming this near the end of January because it's just haven't worked out to my schedule, and so I've read things in January, so this has changed now slightly, but I will only talk about the ones that I've read then in 2023. So let's start with some stats. I started the year with 15 series ongoing. 11 of those were sequel series, 4 of those were companion series, and they add up to 39 books that I was behind on. So that means books that were out at the time but I hadn't read yet. Of those 39 books, it was 29 sequels, 19 companion books, and there were 3 series that I was caught up on. In 2023, I started 30 series. That's a lot. That's so much. Oh my gosh. So we add 30 to that number, and then we add 1 because one of the series that I was caught up with had a book released in 2023, so I was no longer caught up. So we added 31 series to that number, but we also got it down quite a bit because I finished 7 series, DNF'd 14. I'm not hesitating to DNF a few series. I caught up on 4 more, and then there were 4, like every year I transfer my series spreadsheet to like my new reading spreadsheet. And so then I always rank the books in like the order that I want to finish them or that I'm most excited for, and I always have like a critical look at like, do I want to finish this? Realistically, am I gonna finish this, or am I just not gonna bother with it anymore? And then there were 4 more that I decided that in theory I might want to continue, but for whatever reason I decided to not count them as ongoing anymore because either I decided to DNF them or I would need to like start them all over, and so I'm just gonna count them as like completely on my TBR rather than a series that I have on the go. So that gives me 17 series that I'm in the middle of. It's 2 more than at the beginning of 2022, but I can live with that. 9 of those are sequel series, 8 of those are companion series. Comic series, I got back into comics in 2023. I hadn't read them in a while, so I added those to the list. I've read some, but there's none that I'm in the middle of. I either finished them or DNF'd them or caught up with them. So no comic series that I'm in the middle of, which the 17 series up to 120 books behind. That is so much, and that is mostly due to 3 series. I started 3 really long series. I'll go over all the series that I'm in the middle of, so you'll see there. But that is why that number is so high. As you can see, it's 15 sequels and 105 companions. So like those 3 series are companion series, and like together they make up like 90 books between the 3 of them. So that's why that number is so high. And then again, no comics. I also did an average this time. I have an average of 7.059 books per series, which is a lot, which is also due to those 3 series. You like really skew that number because I don't have many books that are around that 7, or series I should say, that are around that 7. Usually I have like 1, 2, maybe 3 books left, and then there's like those few that have a lot. So that's how I get that up, but I don't have a ton that are 7. And I'm caught up on 6. Let's get into the actual books. I'll try not to go into too much detail on each of them because there's a lot. So I'll just go over them quickly, especially like the very well-known ones, or the ones that I've talked about a lot recently. I will just briefly mention. So the series I should say, that I finished in 2023. I have the Precious Stone trilogy by Kerstin Gier. This is 3 books total. I think I read the first 2 prior to 2023, and I read the final one in 2023. I really enjoyed this. It was a reread. The Christmas series by Matt Haig. Again, 3 books. I've read the first 2 prior to 2023. I read the final one in 2023. I read one each Christmas. The first one was definitely my favorite, but I enjoyed this series. Then I have the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, 6 books total. I've read the first 2 prior to 2023 and the other 4 in 2023. I love this series. The 3rd and 4th book made it onto my top 10 of the year. The Bellinger Sisters by Tessa Bailey. This is a duology. It's a romance duology. I've read the I read the 2nd book before the 1st book. I read the 2nd book prior to 2023 and I read the 1st book this year. Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This was the one that I was caught up with at the beginning of 2022, but then the 3rd and final book released in 2023. So I read that one and finished the series. I really enjoyed this series as well. The Kikuro trilogy by Robert Harris. It's 3 books. I think I read all 3. Did I? I don't remember. But this was it was a reread anyway. Really enjoyed this series. It's one of my favorite series of all time. And then lastly, I have Oliver and Peter by Philippe Pelaz, Tiziadi Felice, and Florent Dantel, which is a comic series. It's 3 albums total. I read all 3 in 2023 and I loved it. The second one is my favorite and I love the second one so much. The third one is a little bit disappointing, but still a great series. Then I have all the series that I've DNFed in the year 2023. There's quite a few of them, so I will try and talk about these by like how far in I DNF'd them. So let's start with series that I read only 1 book in. I have the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. I've read the first book, A Discovery, which is actually prior to 2023, but then somewhere throughout the year I decided I didn't want to continue this one, so I decided to put it as a DNF. Then I have Der Jasminblütengarten by Elena Conrad. This is a contemporary women's fiction-y series. There's 2 books. I believe it's a duology. There's 2 books out currently. I don't think a 3rd one is coming. There's no English translation either. I did enjoy the first one, but I just didn't feel the need to continue. But I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. But just not super memorable and nothing that I need to continue. Then I have Outlander by Diana Gabel. I didn't even finish the first book in this series. I didn't like it. There was cheating in it. There was questionable consent in it, and I just like, no thanks. It's 8 book total. I didn't even get through the first one. Then we have The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. This is 10 books, I believe. I read the first one. I read it for a readathon. I finished it and I had a decent time, but this was just a story that I prefer to see on a screen rather than in book form. So I decided to DNF the series. Then Orc's First Blood. I read this for the same readathon as I read The Expanse. It's by Stan Nichols. It is quite an old fantasy, and you could tell. It's super fast-paced. I just don't think it's that well written, personally. It's a trilogy. The first book was short. That's the only reason I finished it, and because it was for a readathon. If not, I wouldn't have continued. Then the Library Trilogy by Mark Lawrence. There's only 1 book out, which is The Book That Wouldn't Burn, which is very popular. A lot of people like it, and I'm so happy for them, but I didn't. I thought it was very overwritten. It was overly wordy. It really needed to be edited, and I just didn't care, so I DNF'd this book at a little over 100 pages in. So I'm not continuing that series. Then I have, I forgot what the series is called, but the first book is The Days of the Deer by Liliana Bodoc. This is a fantasy trilogy by an Argentinian author, and like South American or Latin American fantasy is something that is quite hard to find, so I wanted to give it a try, but I didn't like it. I finished the first one. It was fine. I also read this for a readathon, I believe, but I didn't like it enough to continue. Also, only the first book is translated to English, so if you want to read it, like, you can do that, but know that the rest of the series isn't translated. I advise you to skip the second to last chapter because that is set up for book 2. Outside of that, you could maybe read it as a standalone, but then it's gonna be like one of the standalones where there is potential for a lot more. Then I have Letters of Enchantment by Rebecca Ross. So the first book being Divine Rivals. I listened to this in an audiobook, but then it was due at the library before I was able to finish it. And I realized I didn't care enough to get an extension on my loan or to get it again, so I just decided not to. Then I have The Little Nicholas by Sofia Goschini, which is a series of children's books. They're like short story-esque things. I really like them. I really enjoy them, but I realized that like I've now read 2 out of the 8. We've arrived at the series that I've read 2 books from. I've read 2 out of the 8 books, and I realized like, okay, I'm happy with how much I read. No hard feelings. I might pick up 1, but it's not something that I need to like consider ongoing. It's not something that I'm gonna really finish everything by. Then I have The Legendborn Cycle by Tracy Dion. I read Bloodmarked for also the readathon in April. And the thing is, the series is not bad, but I had some issues with book 1. I a lot of those issues were solved in book 2, but it still had a few things that I didn't love. There is a chance, if like all the reviews of it are really good and like they say the right things, that I might continue, but very small chance. I'm just gonna call it quits on the series. Then I have Marie of the Dragons by Ange and Thierry Desmarais, which is a comic series. There's 5 albums total. I've read 2. The first one was fine enough, like I was willing to give it more to convince me, because it was mostly set up. It was very middle of the road. It was perfectly serviceable, but I would need more of the story to truly have a strong opinion about it. The second album, I hated. So there's that. Then we have the Helen Grace series by M.J. Earledge. This has 9 books out. It's a thriller series. I read the first one. It was fine, but I did have some issues with it. So I decided to give it a second book, but I got 30 pages into the second book, and I was like, okay, no, I can't do this. So I did this. Then I have the Empire's Trilogy by Raymond D. Feist and Jenny Wirtz. This was for a buddy read over at the Library of Alexandria, a Linkus channel, and this was such a disappointment. I loved book 1. Book 2 just was not good. I didn't like it. I had so many issues. I got so annoyed with it. I hated it. I didn't want to continue it, so I didn't. And then the last series that I DNFed 3 books in, and that was Sherlock Holmes. Again, I have nothing against this series. I had fun with it, but I just realized that I got what I wanted out of it. I might pick up one more at some point, who knows, but it's not a series that I'm gonna just read everything from start to finish. So I put DNF. Then I have 4 that I decided to, just not really continue with. So for various reasons. First, I have Little Women. Usually Little Women and Good Wives are like in one book. In a lot of editions, my editions didn't have that. So I did want to read it, but now I'm just thinking like I do want to read it still. But I don't think I need to count it as a series ongoing. I'll probably just reread Little Women and then just read Good Wives after that. But it's not like something that I need on my ongoing series spreadsheet, because that's not how it lives in my brain. So that's why I didn't transfer that one. Then I have The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. This is a like witchy contemporary fantasy duology. I liked book 1 and I would want to continue in theory, but I read book 1 in Dutch and I've been waiting and book 2 has been out for quite a while. The Dutch translation of book 1 has been out for a little while, and just book 2 hasn't been translated to Dutch yet, so I don't think that will happen. And I didn't like book 1 enough to want to reread it in English, to then read the sequel in English, because I really hate switching language mid-series. So that's why I decided to unfortunately DNF this, because I would want that. The same reason is true for the next series, and that is Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. I read the first 2. There's 4 total, I believe, but just the third one just does not get translated. I read book 2 during lockdown, like 2020, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and it just won't come. And so this one I might wanna reread in English because I really love the first two books in it. But if I'm gonna do that, I don't need it to be on my ongoing series spreadsheet. So I didn't transfer it for that reason. And then lastly, we have The Bliss Bakery by Catherine Littlewood. This is a middle grade series about a magical bakery. I really like this series. This was one of my favorite series as a kid. And so like the three that I've read, I read when I was a kid. And I just recently found out that there are more books in a series. There's like 9, which I didn't know that. I should have known because like book 3, that was not the ending of the series, the ending of that book. There was definitely more to come. But I don't know. I don't know why I thought that was the end of the series. Anyway, so I really want to read the rest of it, but then I think I should reread the first 3 because it has been so long and I want to because I love them. It hasn't been a long time for book 2 because book 2 is my favorite out of the 3 that I've read, and it's such a comfort series. Like Bad Mental Health Day equals rereading the second book in that series because I love it so much, and I've reread it quite a few times, so I do remember that one pretty well. But I want to continue the series to see how I get on with it. But I want to start from book 1 and just work my way through rather than like just reading it as a series that I've already started. So I didn't transfer that one. So let's go to the series that I'm currently caught up with. There's 6 of them. The first 2 I'll probably be caught up on for a little while, and that is Gentleman Bastards by Scott Lynch and The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. They're both adult fantasy. They're both a little bit notorious for like fans waiting for the next book in the series to come out. Gentleman Bastards, there's 3 books out. Kingkiller Chronicles, there's 2 books out, plus some novellas, but I don't count those in these. I haven't read them, but I don't. Sometimes I do count like those side novellas as part of the series. Sometimes I don't. It really depends. For the series, I don't count them as part of the series, but I still would like to read them. So these were also the 2 that I was already caught up on in 2022, and I'm still caught up. Then I have the Unseelie duology. There is actually, out of all the other ones, there is only 1 book out so far that I read in 2023. So we have the Unseelie duology by Ivelisse Hausman, which is a young adult fantasy. I loved it. It was my #1 favorite book of the year, and I'm very impatiently awaiting the sequel. Then I have The Theory of Magic by Jeff McIntyre. This is an indie fantasy. It was my very first indie fantasy. And it was great. I loved it, so yeah. Then I have Le Pré derrière l'église by Didier Chris and Christian Paty. This is a comic. And it was lovely. And I just, right before filming this, I filmed my top books of 2023. And now I'm thinking, why is this not on that list? Because it's not. And I'm really confused as to why it is not. Because I freaking love that comic. So, addendum to that list. This should have been on there. But I really liked it. I want the second one, which is out in French already, but I'm waiting for the Dutch translation. That's why I say caught up, because I'm caught up with the Dutch translation. And then the last one that I'm caught up with is the Sam Shepard Mysteries by Patricia Meredith. The first book being Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman, which I really liked. It's a cozy mystery. It was great. I liked it a lot. So I want to read book 2. So those are all the series that I was caught up with, or am caught up with. I still am. Let's then go to the series that I'm in the middle of. As I already said, in transferring my spreadsheet, I always rank them from books that I'm like are the most priority to finish, or like the most excited, or whatever, to least excited. I'm excited about all of these. If I wasn't, then I wouldn't be continuing them. But it's just like a little ranking for myself, which was very hard to rank. This was harder to rank than my top 10 books of the year, which do with that what you will. But so this is also not in the order of when I've started them. So some of these I have been reading before 2023. Some of these I started in 2023. They're just all like one, like all thrown together. They're not in that order. Sorry for that, but whatever. First series on the list is A Virgin River by Robin Carr. This is an adult contemporary. There's 22 books, and I've read 4 of them, all 4 in 2023. Then I have Discworld by Terry Pratchett, an adult fantasy. There's 39 books, is that right? And I've read 2. 39 doesn't sound right. Maybe it is. Editing me will let you know. And A Drowning Empire by Andrea Stewart. This is an adult fantasy. There's 3 books out. I've read 2. The Green Moon Saga by Fonda Lee. Sequel series, adult fantasy. I've read. There's 3 books out. I've read 2. The Empyrean by Rebecca Yarros. There is now 2 books out. I think the second one came out at the end of last year. Could be very early January this year, but I believe it was the end of last year. I've read 1. Then I have Bright Falls by Ashley Herring Blake, which has 3 books out. I've read 1. The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, a mystery series. There's 4 books out. I read 1. The Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson, in young adult sci-fi. There's 4 books out. I'm not counting the novellas here. Like the main novels, there's 4 of them. I've read 2. I tried the 3rd one, but I put that one on pause. I do plan to continue it, but it just wasn't at the time. So that's a series that will be continued. 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. 2 books. I've read 1. The Last Gift by Allegra Pescatore, a indie fantasy. There's 3 books. I've read 1. The First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, grimdark fantasy. There's 3 books. I've read 1. Adventures on Trains by M.G. Leonard and Sam Setchman, a middle grade mystery series. There's 6 books out. I've read 2. The Kingbridge Saga by Ken Follett, a historical fiction series that's notorious for having very long books. There's 5 of them. I've read 1. The Commissario Bonetti series by Donna Leon, a mystery series set in Venice. There's 32 books. I've read 1. The Heroes of Olympus by Rick Riordan, the continuation to the Percy Jackson series. 5 of those. I've read 1. This is a reread though. I've read all of these, but I'm rereading the series. The Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. Historical romances. There is 8 of them. I've read 2. And finally, Between Earth and Sky by Rebecca Rowanhorse, pre-Columbian inspired adult fantasy. There's 2 books out. I've read 1 of them. So those were all the books, the series that I finished, DNFed, caught up on, and I'm still in the middle of, for 2023. Series related goals for 2024. If I look back at the stats I shared at the beginning of the year, I'm in the middle of 17 series, which I'm not too worried about, because 8 of those are companion series, so like you can read them out of order, it doesn't really matter. So I'm not too worried about that number. The one number that I do want to go down is the amount of books that I've left. That 120, I would like that to be below 100 at the end of the year. If the amount of series goes down, that'd be great. If it stays the same, it's fine. I maybe don't want it to go up. Let's do that as a goal. Just don't start more series and I take off the list. But like I'm not, if it stays at 17, I'm not gonna be mad about that. But the amount of books to read, that needs to go down. Which I'm a very heavy planner. Hi, if you've met me, I'm a very heavy planner. And I plan out my reads pretty far in advance. And if I just stick to the plans that I've made, I will end up at the end of the year with 104 books left in series. Which that number is not exact because there's a few books in series that come out later this year that I haven't counted. I've only counted the amount of books in those series that are already out. So if series have a new release somewhere throughout the year, that number changes. So it'll be a little bit more than 104, but that also doesn't take into consideration none of my DNF series. And as we've learned earlier, I've DNFed 14 in 2023. The odds of me DNFing 0 in 2024 are very small. So like the 104 is taken into account that I want to finish every series that I'm now in the middle of and then I'm going to start in the new year. So I think that I'm going to make that goal. If I just stick to the plans I've made, I'm going to get there. So, yay. This was a video. Let me know any of your thoughts on anything I mentioned and let me know what series I need to prioritize out of the ones that I'm in the middle of. And let me know some series that you really need to finish. Like really need to finish and really want to finish. So that was the video. I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you again later. Bye.